Hey everybody, I was originally going to create this video and compare the letters that we've seen from the incumbents as well as those from uh, Larry and Carol, but I think Callie covered a lot of that very well in her own letter. So instead, while I'm going to touch on those letters, I want to talk about what her letter was discussing, and that's the DDA charter and our failure to follow it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit share screen, and I'm going to start with general counsel before it gets deleted.
But like I said, I'm one of the one of the generations that's lost, and the voices probably ain't gonna be up here. And there's going older ones are passing on, like y'all said earlier. But yeah, new voices, new faces.
Thank you.
Go ahead, y'all. I would like to make a motion that we, the people, as the whole people, the Okafa people, that we do away with the DDA salary and we, as the people, set the salary. Is that legal?
The motion again is out of the order. Next. We just went through it. It's the same issue.
How is that? The salary and the bonuses. We need to do away with the salary and the bonuses and have a set salary. No more bonuses. And set salary. So
Just the DDA.
It's not the DDA, it's just setting the salary and bonuses. In open business committee meeting.
I will just point out, the DDA is not paid by tribal money. That is 100% the investors' money. They
We
make
are the investors.
No.
You
are not.
company, is it?
You.
Supposed to be ours?
I'll answer you if you give me assurance. We are, the tribe is the owners. We are the owners, but other people hold the bank.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop it right there real quick because Jack Brill states that the tribe is the owners of the company, but we have investors. I don't know of any company that the owners have less say than investors. I can't think of a single one. I'm going to continue, but I just want to drop in that brief statement.
Go to the bank. The bank pays John. They pay Tamara. They pay the DDA. That is not tribal money. 100% of every dime that can come to the tribe does, in fact, come to the tribe. I can guarantee you that.
So then who does the checks and balances? Is it the GC or the DDA? We want checks and balances.
Their salaries are approved by the investors.
Why? Investors first?
No, you're not the investors. You're the owner. You're the owner. Somebody else funded all this.
So are you saying it will take us 5 million to disband the DDA or 10 million to disband the DDA by the bylaws?
I cannot tell you. No bylaws control that. That is the investors.
That's wrong. So the DDA charter specifically states that the business committee will set the salaries and the bonuses will be approved. So I don't know how Jack Brill didn't know that, but let's continue.
They hired the DDA to run this business. That's how it's set up. The loan documents create that.
Mr. Brill, just so we're clear, what you just told me off microphone was that the business committee does not set the DDA salary. Is that correct?
That is correct.
When did that go into effect? Because if I recall, the charter that established the DDA said that the business committee is who sets.
No, they approve. They do not set. I don't believe. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, can I couldn't have made
Okay, so Jack Brill, while looking for approval from our chairman, seems to stipulate that the bonuses and compensation are not set by the DDA, but instead they are approved by the business committee. That's just completely wrong. And you can, I'll show you the DDA charter here in a second, but I want to move over to John's letter and look at his view on the compensation of the DDA. He says all compensation from downstream casino resort is audited and approved. Bonuses are an annual part of the budgeting process and are paid based on the performance of the facility at the year end based on the budget at the beginning of the year. Guapa Casino and Downstream Casino have paid bonuses to all managerial positions since I can remember, and it is audited and part of the national industry norms. Mr. Ramsey was a non-elected member of the Downstream Development Authority, and over the last several months before the resigned, he worked less in 1 month than I work in a month. Just makes, yeah, okay, I was just making sure that I read that right. He became very distant and complained about many things that we not clear. As far as compensation and bonuses paid, Mr. Ramsey made most, if not all, motions pertaining to compensation and bonuses. That right there, that statement is very distressful. And it's because, according to that statement, the DDA sets their own compensation and bonuses. Because Mr. Ramsey was never an elected official for the business committee. So even if that is true, even if Larry Ramsey made most, if not all, the motions, all he's doing is telling us that the DDA sets their own compensation and bonuses. I don't agree or understand his rambling rants in his unsolicited letter. On behalf of our opponents, it's very sad that hate and greed have driven a few people to make crazy allegations without one thread of evidence. This is something that we've heard for at least the last decade is, whoever says anything that mildly doesn't relate to our chairman's position, they are greedy and they are hateful. They are haters, as I think I've seen him call us in the past. I want to move over to Tamara's letter and see what she had to say. She said, I've tried to reach Larry Ramsey and his sister, Jean Ann Lambert, to discuss their allegations against me. I have gone to their house and tried to call their phones. I did recently learn that I may not have their correct phone numbers, but I do know where they live. Not one time have I ever had a single issue with Larry or Jean Ann, and I'm unsure where this recent hatred, again, there's the word hate again, towards me comes from. They are making outrageous claims, and I will confront them personally when given the chance. It was my observation that Larry became bitter after his sister received her settlement funds. He told me and Jack Brill that John Barry cost him $1 million and that he should have joined the Barker Group with his sister for about 3 months before Larry resigned from the DDA. He was constantly making remarks about John every time John would leave the room. He told us John was lying about the percentages Barker was getting paid, amongst many other things related to the lawsuits. So this sounds like a lot of, deflecting. He also told me the same group would be trying to recoup the money the nation received over 10 years ago in a different settlement referred to as a SARCO. SARCO is one of those cases that, really got me started on my political journey. And, I remember specifically when me and Joe Pat went in there and we requested a meeting, and with Tamara and Flossie Matthews and Donna Mercer that was there. And, the thing was, I was a 24-year-old kid at the time, and had not gone to college yet. Was not really understanding what I was looking at. We were given a basic accounting of where the ASARCO funds were used, but it wasn't until a few years later that I learned the truth behind ASARCO, and that is that there was originally 9 families that filed a claim against the government for ASARCO. And at one point, the tribe decided that it would be in its best interest to include itself. And, members such as my grandfather and Jess McKibben and a few others, actually stood up to the tribe, and they said, the tribe has no interest in this. They went to the BIA, and I remember reading the letter where it said, these are a couple haters in the tribe. They're always trying to cause trouble. And, the thing is, at that time, John was talking about my grandfather, a previous chairman, and Jess McKibben, a previous BC member. And it's just, it seems now, if you add, all the times that we've heard, they're just haters, they're just troublemakers. I mean, at what point do you say, well, hold on now, what are they trying to say? It's my belief Larry was doing his best to try to get myself and Jack to turn on John and say he was a terrible person, because Larry truly believed it's John's fault he didn't get more money from the lawsuit. He became very aggressive towards John. Jack and I had agreed that we would sit down with John and Larry and clear the air. Apparently, Larry couldn't wait for Jack and I. He verbally attacked John. I wasn't present, and so I cannot say firsthand what took place during that confrontation. I guess that's why Larry's telling people I wouldn't support him. Other than one text message after that confrontation, I have not had contact with Larry Ramsey since. I will tell you, Larry's claims of me paying myself millions of dollars or receiving millions of dollars in bonuses is a flat-out lie. I have never made 1 cent more than Larry Ramsey or anyone else while I've been on the DDA. In fact, he was a member before me, and so he probably made more than me. Since COVID closed the doors at Downstream, we have adjusted many salaries, including the entire DDA taking a 20% reduction in salaries. That statement right there, we have adjusted many salaries, including the entire DDA taking a 20% reduction in salaries. So once again, from what Callie said and what I've heard from the other BC members, this wasn't them. This was the DDA acting upon itself to adjust the salaries of the DDA. Let's move over to the DDA charter. As you can see, this is page 77 of 100. It's buried beneath several other resolutions. There's plenty of information on here, but I have it specifically set on section 14, because this is what Callie's talking about. Section 14-4-C says any and all compensation paid to the members of the authority other than for expenses as set forth herein shall be approved by the business committee. Now, what Callie said is a fact. Shall, it's not a permissible word. Shall means must. It must be approved by the business committee. So they're not following that part of their own resolution. This is something that they wrote. They're also not following 14-4-B. All vacancies on the authority shall be filled within 30 days after they become vacant. And we know that for a fact because it states that there should be at least 3 business committee members on there. And we know there are only 2. Section 14-1 says the chairman of the business committee who shall automatically become a member of the authority upon his or her installation in the office. The term of the business committee chairman shall coincide with his or her term on the business committee. In section 14-2, it says 2 members of the business committee other than the chairman of the business committee who shall be elected by a majority vote of the business committee. The term of such members shall coincide with their terms on the business committee. Now I've heard that they've tried to put Larry back, or not Larry, excuse me. They've tried to put Randy back on there by making, resolutions and kind of putting it in there somewhere, but they've been caught each time, and so they've been denied each time. That's basically what I have to say about the letters. These are just my opinions on them. But you have the incumbent supporters spreading around these letters like they're the word of God, and they're fact. There's no denying the fact. But in these letters, they're telling you that they've lied to you. And again, let's look at John's. He says, Mr. Ramsey was a non-elected member of the Downstream Development Authority. Mr. Ramsey made most, if not all, motions pertaining to compensation and bonuses. Right there, you're telling us that the DDA approves their own compensation and bonuses. That's an outright lie from, the last decade of what we've been told. I mean, I've been to every general council, and I remember specifically that this has been brought up at just about every general council. And each time we've heard the same language, which is the investors set the salaries. And it's not true. But now I'm going to talk about political retribution. And a lot of these BC members, they sit on, they sit on the committee, but they also work for the tribe in some capacity because they don't make a salary by being on the BC. And this puts them and us in a very troubling situation because, let's look at Zach, for instance. Zach works under Tamara's husband. Zach works with Tamara's daughter and with Tamara's daughter's husband. Callie has a boss above her that was put in position by our chairman. They're in a tough spot because if they do decide to speak out, they take a risk. They take a risk of, having to come home to their significant other or to their children and saying, I tried to do the right thing and now I have to look for a new job. And I know this because I did this 2 years ago. I worked for Quapaw Casino, and there came a point for me that I had seen too much and there was too many questions to not raise those questions. And when I decided to raise those questions, I was fired from Quapaw Casino. And it was a sad day for me because, I loved working for our people. And I would love to work for our people now. I want to be a part of our traditions. I want to be able to go to, all the memorial dinners and go to, our church and help dig graves. I mean, this is something that, it saddens me that I can't do this. But there's a lot of tribal members that are in that same position. And not that they agree with everything that's being done, but what do? Do they speak out and lose their job? Do they just go along because, they don't have a choice? Rob Weaver faced the same political retribution, 2 years ago when he decided to run for chairman. And most of us see that for what it is. I know there was accusations of theft, but, and they promised us that we would see those accusations. Where did that ever go? I never seen anything on it. All I heard was Rob was a thief and we're moving on. This is something that needs to be fixed. A tribal member should not be afraid to speak out or to ask questions if they have questions. And I understand that a lot of us, have gotten upset and we may have voiced our frustrations a little too loud. But you got to think, after 20 years of not being heard, what do? You've got to scream. You got to get your voice out there. And that's the thing, is for 20 years, people have said the same thing. For at least 10, maybe more, we've heard about a forensic audit. We've heard about the DDA. We've heard about their bonuses and compensation. The 2010 grievance stated as much, that the DDA set their own salaries. I think at that time, that was the first year that it had came around, and they had shown where John had voted along with Randy and several other people that were on the DDA had voted to give themselves large increases in compensation. I think John's was $30,000 and Randy's was $12,500. But they did this, in the grievance, it shows us this. And what we can see through John's letter is it hasn't changed. I mean, that grievance, I want you to think about this. If you worked for a company and you weren't the owner, let's just say you were the CFO. We'll say CFO. You were the CFO for a company, and you thought to yourself, I think I need a little bit of a raise. And the owner didn't approve it. What is that called? I'm pretty sure that's called embezzlement. You take funds and you direct them to yourself. And for people to say that, there's no legal ramifications, if this was all going on, there would have been legal ramifications. I hate to tell you, but theft happens every day. And it happens every day in business. Barry Madoff got away for what, 40, 50 years of doing it to people? We've got to make a decision. And, I like Tamara as a person. I do. I told her that. I've never had a, personal vendetta against her. I've never had a personal vendetta against John. To me, this is about two things that keep our people divided. And if people don't see that, there's no words for it, because if you can't see that transparency and accountability is what keeps our people apart. What I mean by transparency is sharing the information that is requested by tribal members, sharing the information that is requested by the business committee. What I mean by accountability is the same people don't sit on every board that's supposed to be, the authority over the other board. So, for instance, the BC is supposed to be the authority of the DDA. They shouldn't be sitting on the DDA. That's conflict of interest. Or the business committee is supposed to be, the authority of several other boards. QSA, who sits on the QSA board? Ask yourself that. Who sits on these other boards that, are provided a salary? These are things that we need to pay attention to. These are things that we can fix, ourselves. I do want, looking at this letter though, bar tops, tile, and other improvements I have built, all materials were either paid for in full by me, or I dug out of the dumpster during remodels and we repurposed the materials. What tribal member could go to downstream and dig out materials out of the dumpster? What tribal member could get away with that? It's not a thing. It doesn't happen. It can't happen. There would be legal ramifications for any tribal member who tried to do that. These are things that you need to pay attention to, and we all need to fix, and we can do it. And the whole point of this is to share, your voice on July 25th. Because it matters. Have a good day, everybody.